All right, let's look at some other stuff. Wall Street Journal this morning popped some battleground state polls. Let's look at them together, shall we? All right. So Trump up in Arizona, up in Georgia, up in Michigan, high North Carolina. Trump up large size in the Silver State. Trump up one in Pennsylvania, tied in Wisconsin. All margin of error stuff, right? Here's something that's going on in the polling now, which we've kind of talked around, but we haven't hit it as hard as I'm about to. Trump is overperforming in the Rust Belt, but he's underperforming in the Sun Belt. And this is the best news for Kamala Harris right now in terms of the only thing that really matters, the Electoral College, which is she's got multiple paths now, right? She's got some Sun Belt paths. She can't be shut out in the Rust Belt. Next slide, please, to look at the Journal on issues. And the Journal poll tells a story we've been living with for weeks now. Trump is doing better on issues that are most important to people, particularly the economy and immigration. But Harris is still right in the fight because she's strong on some other secondary and tertiary issues, and abortion rights is important. And they don't like Trump's personality and all those issues, January 6th, etc. All right, guys, John, what is your view of the Journal poll and polling currently?
Of the Journal poll, I don't think it's a surprise in that the issues that we thought made sense still make sense. Immigration, economy are still the top issues, and we've known that. And then we've also known that these states are largely within the margin of error, but we felt I'm still a little skeptical of the Sun Belt issue. I was surprised to see Trump doing better in North Carolina because of concerns I have about the polling in North Carolina. But that being said, nothing that I saw shocked me. I was out last night. There was a big Trump alumni event for Trump last night. Chris LaCivita came in, spoke to it, and he was just the mood about the internal polls. He was willing to share them. I mean, this kind of harkens back to what we were talking about yesterday. Generally, you don't get into details. He was telling a story about how Trump called up in the morning. He was giddy about some of the internals and really wanted to get the word out. That type of enthusiasm doesn't happen when you're on your heels, right? You don't get up and start saying, let me tell everybody what we're seeing inside. Just when I've been part of winning campaigns and losing campaigns over the last 30 years. Like last night, people were lining up to pay to come in. I mean, the excitement among Republicans is that the wind is at our back right now. And I think that's a good thing. And I know the polls are a little close and that's why, but the momentum's with Team Trump right now. And that's a good place to be 25 days out.
So just to be clear or something, which I think I was clear about, but when I've reported over the last several days about private polling, that is not Republican-only private polling. It is, as Dan said, it's reflected in the Democratic private polling, too. In fact, I think if you ask the Harris campaign and they would tell you about their polling, you'd hear a similar story. This is not spin by Republicans about secret or fake polls. This is what is happening in the data. And as we've said repeatedly, the public and private data differs. The public data is cheap and has issues in almost every case. It's just the nature of the beast now for academic and media organizations. Not everyone, but most. So Nate Silver, who I don't believe has ever covered a presidential campaign and is good at averaging numbers, did a long piece making the case that, in fact, the public polls are better than the private polls, and that the extent that people talk about private polls, it's all made up spin that's done to trick reporters and please clients. So, guys, is Nate Silver right?
No. Can I just tell you, can I say one fundamental thing that I want people to understand? Whether you're doing a public poll or you're the most partisan private poller, no professional pollster will ever skew a poll. They might ask certain questions. And again, largely it's client based. So the client will say, I want you to test this, or I want you to test this, or I want to change the screen on this. But a pollster is like any other professional. You will not undermine your credibility and your professionalism. And last, I'm not saying no one's ever done it, but you won't sustain your credibility in the industry if you throw yourself under the bus. And so sometimes people will say, well, that's from, pick McLaughlin or Public Opinion Strategies or Terrence. These are all Republican pollsters. And so I don't trust. These guys are top-notch pros. And they're never going to undermine their credibility for the sake of a headline or a story. And I want people to understand that. And the same's true on the Democratic side. Celinda Lake and all these guys, they're good at what they do, and they would never throw away their credibility.
And just as they would not throw away their credibility, I am not taking some pollster I've never heard of and saying here's their numbers. I'm relying on people who I've known and covered for years, and I know that they have the exact same the professionalism that you've described. Right. So that's different than what Nate Silver's talking about.
Right. No. And I'm saying this because, but I want people to understand who what we're talking about. No one is going to do that. But I'm reading some of the chat. We talked about this yesterday. The mainstream guys will take the cheapest route, right? Which is going to get you the not the best result most of the time. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. The private guys are using this to make $million decisions. There is no way public polling is better. It defies logic.
Well, and that's the thing I was going to say is if you're a candidate running for office, you want the best numbers. It is your job. You want to win.
Right.
So you seek out people, and they are being paid to give honest results, to make decisions, to win elections. They're not sitting there, skewing everything to make, to have happy talk internally. That's how pollsters ruin the reputation and get fired. Yeah. They are better because this is what they do for a living, and the candidates are seeking out the best to win elections.
And just to be clear, as a reporter, when someone offers me information, I don't usually say, why are you telling me? Why are they telling me? And others, they're telling me because they're human beings, and they're like, oh my God, Trump might win. And they're also interested in sending a message to the Harris campaign. Guys, you have a problem, and you're not listening to us, so we're going to tell some people in the press. And they don't want to be blamed if their Senate candidate loses. They want to be able to blame the Wilmington. That's some of the potential motivations. It's not make up numbers and trick Mark Halperin and others.